On the 26th of December, a Chinese man in the United States has been caught snapping photos of a naval air station in Key West, Florida. The man went to the area early and started snapping clips of the sensitive location. As per reports, at about 6:50 a.m., some people in the vicinity saw him walking around a perimeter fence and entering the military facility from the rocks along the water. They even warned him that he was trespassing in a restricted site, which is also known as Truman Annex. In the meantime, the U.S. military police noticed it and swung into action. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes why a Chinese man getting caught red-handed trying to photograph U.S. Naval Air Station is not a one-off incident. Let's get started. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. If you are, like us, fascinated by military vehicles and technology, I recommend you give War Thunder a try. It's a military vehicle combat game which you can download and play for free on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One with cross-platform support. It has a huge variety of more than 1,200 playable aircraft, tanks, helicopters, and ships from the 1930s to the 1990s, which you can take to battle on land, in the air, and at sea on more than 80 theaters of war. War Thunder's been kind enough to offer all Defense Updates viewers a special bonus, which will grant you a free premium tank, aircraft, or ship, and 3 days of premium account time for registering using our link in the description below. So take the plunge and join more than 20 million players from around the world. U.S. military police approached him and checked out the photos on his mobile phone. The police officers immediately called a federal agent. The federal agent arrested Lau on a charge of entering the naval property for the purpose of photographing defense installations. According to the complaint affidavit, Lau agreed to waive his Miranda rights and told the agent with the Naval Criminal Investigation Service in broken English that he was trying to take photographs of the sunrise. But his lie was caught immediately when he provided the passcode to his cell phone and allowed the agent to look at the images. The agent observed photographs of Truman Annex on the camera. Lau, who's 27, had his first federal court appearance Friday afternoon in Key West via a video link with Magistrate Judge Patrick Hunt in Fort Lauderdale and Assistant U.S. Attorney Karen Gilbert in Miami. Hunt appointed the Federal Public Defender's Office to represent Lau and scheduled his pretrial detention hearing for January 6th. His court proceedings will be a week later. The incident marks the second time since last year that a Chinese national has been charged with taking photos of defense assets at the Naval Air Station in Key West. In September of 2018, Zhao Chanli, who claimed to be a music student from China, got caught by the Key West police for trespassing onto the high-security Naval Air Station. He later told federal authorities that he lost his way on the tourist trail and did not realize it was a military base. Just like Lau, investigators found photos and videos on Chen Li's cell phone as well as on his digital camera. It contained snaps of government buildings and a Defense Department antenna field on the military base. Chen Li, who was 20, pleaded guilty in February to one count of photographing defense installations at the Key West military facility and was sentenced to 1 year in prison by U.S. District Judge K. Michael Moore. It's interesting to note that the judge gave him the maximum sentence, which was higher than the sentencing guidelines between 0 and 6 months. The U.S. Attorney's Office sought 9 months in prison. In March, a Chinese woman was arrested at U.S. President Donald Trump's private club in Palm Beach after she bluffed her way into Mar-a-Lago. Zhang Yujing, 33, was charged with trespassing in a restricted area and lying to a federal agent. Another Chinese woman, Lu Jing, age 56, was charged earlier this month with misdemeanor counts of loitering or prowling and resisting arrest without violence after being caught trespassing at Mar-a-Lago. A Chinese team was recently disqualified from its own military World Games. This was because of extensive cheating by the hosts. The Military World Games is a multi-sport event for military sports people, organized by the International Military Sports Council, CISM. The games have been held since 1995, although championships for separate sports had been held for some years. Like the Olympics, the Military World Games are held every 4 years. For this year's event, China built an athletes' village in Wuhan, and the country's president, Xi Jinping, attended the opening ceremony. The specific event tests runners on their speed and map-reading abilities. They need to navigate the unknown terrain with only a map and a compass. But it was discovered that the Chinese runners were using illegal means. This includes taking assistance from spectators and using markings and small paths that only the Chinese team was aware of. IOF officials investigated the results after protests from rivals, including Russia, Switzerland, France, Poland, and Austria. Eventually, the jury decided to void the Chinese team's results and ban them from other races. Organizers rejected an appeal from the Chinese athletes. This is not the first time Chinese have been caught for cheating in major events. Doping scandals have riddled China's international sporting record in the past decade, with some athletes stripped of Olympic gold medals. In January 2017, 3 Chinese women's weightlifting gold medalists at the 2008 Beijing Olympics were disqualified and stripped of their medals for doping following a reanalysis of their drug tests. A Chinese doctor claimed that there had been a systematic doping program in China during the 1980s and 1990s across a range of sports, in an interview with German media. According to the whistleblower Zhu Yinzhang, all medals won by Chinese athletes at major international tournaments in the last 2 decades of the 20th century are tainted by doping. Not only is China caught cheating in sports, used civilians for spying, but it's been copying weapons from the U.S. and Russia. China's used espionage and reverse engineering to accomplish this. For example, let's check 2 such systems. Y-20 Doppelganger is copied from C-17 Globemaster III. Beginning in the winter of 2009, 2 Chinese hackers began sending malicious emails to Boeing employees disguised to look as if they came from familiar people. Over the next 2 years, hackers stole some 630,000 files from Boeing related to the C-17, the 3rd most expensive plane that the Pentagon has ever developed, with research and development costs of $3.4 billion. On the 26th of January 2013, Chinese copy of C-17, Y-20 Doppelganger, first flew. Currently 8 are in service. More production is planned in the future. Shenyang J-11 and J-15 Flying Shark is copied from the Russian Sukhoi Su-27 and Sukhoi Su-33. Russia and China had a deal through which China would acquire Su-27s. Russians claimed that the Chinese began violating licensing terms almost immediately by installing their own avionics on flankers under Chinese designation J-11. The deal fell apart after about half of the Su-27s were sent to China, and Moscow accused Chinese manufacturers of replicating the jet under the names J-11 and J-11B. J-15 Flying Shark is a derivative or illegal copy of the Russian Su-33, which was originally based on the Sukhoi 27 airframe. But the copying has been done with limited success due to complex engineering involved, and J-15 Flying Shark is referred to as the flopping fish for its inability to operate effectively from the Chinese carrier. Even the Russians are fed up and recently expressed their frustration publicly, which is rare since the relationship between Moscow and Beijing is good. Russian state defense conglomerate Rostec accused China of illegally copying a wide range of Russian weapons and military hardware. Yevgeny Levadny, Rostec's chief of intellectual property projects, on December 14th, said, "Unauthorized copying of our equipment abroad is a huge problem. There have been 500 such cases over the past 14 years. China alone has copied aircraft engines, Sukhoi planes, deck jets, air defense systems, portable air defense missiles, and analogs of the Pantsir medium-range surface-to-air systems. Chinese can go to any length to achieve its objectives, and countries which are not even its rival have to be careful."
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.